Hi, welcome back to Not So Obvious Watches. I'm Pete McConville, and today you are going to see something extremely unusual on the internet, and that is a YouTube content creator changing their mind, at least a little bit. Okay, so as I said, today I'm going to tell you how I have changed my mind, just a tiny little bit, about Seiko, and most importantly, PROSPEX, and signing and not signing crowns. About a week ago, I did a video talking about Seiko crowns, and I postulated the idea that Seiko didn't sign their crowns as some kind of flex, whereas every other company, pretty much every other company, has their crowns made by some third party. Seiko is, I won't say unique, but is unusual, very unusual, in even being able to make things like crowns. And as such, my idea was they felt uniquely confident, uniquely comfortable not having to sign the crowns of their watches. Whereas everyone else, because they were having the crowns made by a third party, felt some need, like a dog on a tree, to piss on it and brand the crown. Since then, I've got a lot of feedback from you, and the beauty of an opinion is because it's based on facts and argument. When people give you alternative facts, you can change your opinion, and that's what I've done. You see, I made a dreadful error in my first video. I made the mistake I accuse a lot of other people of making all the time. I treated Seiko like a monolith, like a single brand, when that's not true. Seiko is best considered a group, like Richemont or LVMH, or Swatch, obviously, with Presage, PROSPEX, Grand Seiko, Astron, Cultura, all being considered as brands in their own right, like A. Lange & Söhne and Baume & Mercier, and etc., etc. Because I treated Seiko as something of a monolith, I looked at the watches I was most familiar with, which is the PROSPEX line, and then I drew a conclusion across the board that Seiko does not have signed crowns. Many of you pointed out that I was wrong, that Grand Seiko routinely, in fact always, signs their crown. The Presage guys routinely, and in fact it turns out almost always, sign their crowns, and it is unique to PROSPEX that they don't sign their crowns. Now, I did find one PROSPEX diver, maybe two PROSPEX divers that do have a signed crown, and those were watches intended to be one-to-one replicas of an earlier version. And since that earlier the 62 Mass had a little Seiko on the dial, Seiko, in replicating that one watch, had also replicated the signed Seiko. Every other PROSPEX diver, every other PROSPEX watch I have been able to find, from a $300 Mini Turtle to a $7,000 LX spring drive, has an unsigned crown. This seems to be a single, consistent, and only in very unusual circumstances, ignored, moved away from, disregarded rule for PROSPEX divers. So given that all of Grand Seiko's, all of Presage's are signed, regardless of price, from cheapest to most expensive, they're all signed. Whereas no PROSPEX, from cheapest to most expensive, with one or two very unique exceptions, are signed. For me, okay, so my idea of the flex is clearly wrong. That's not going to work anymore. But equally so, the idea that many of you had, that it was mere penny pinching on behalf of Seiko, would also seem to be wrong. I can't imagine what the logic is that says that a couple of $100 Presage will have a signed crown, but a $5,000-$6,000 PROSPEX LX won't, because we're trying to save a few pennies. That just doesn't scan. There's no logic in there. So I'm going to, just as I disregarded my previous theory and threw it to the curb, I think that theory can equally be shredded and consigned to history. I just can't see how that can be true. So then it becomes a question of, well, why is it? Why are PROSPEX divers' crowns unsigned, whereas presage and Grand Seiko are? The only thing that I can think of off the top of my head is that it's some kind of reference to PROSPEX watches, supposed to be outdoorsy, tooly, do things watches, and perhaps Seiko feels that, or PROSPEX, to be more frank, more precise, feels that given the nature of that watch and how it will be worn, then any kind of branding on the crown is likely to get worn, scuffed, end up looking pretty terrible, and therefore they just won't go that way. That's entirely possible. Now, Seiko's never said that, but then on the other hand, Rolex has never actually said why they did the maxi case. It's always been presumed that it's got to do with long-term, longevity of the case and allowing for polishing, etc. If you accept that argument, then it's probably not that hard to accept the same sort of idea around Seiko and the PROSPEX divers. It follows that same kind of logic. So that's what I now think it is. I was being a little bit facetious last time, and I think I put a lot of writers in. My very title was that it was probably a dumb theory, that Seiko was somehow flexing by showing its confidence, showing its bravado, by not signing the crowns of its watches. Clearly that's wrong. Clearly the idea that it's penny pinching can be ditched. The next option I've got is that this is some kind of professional tool watch not wanting to put in parts that would wear down and look crappy later. Have you got any alternative theories? Like I said, penny pinching is out, flexing is out. Now wear is about the only one I can think of. Over to you. I've been Pete McConville. This has been Not So Obvious Watches. Please like and subscribe. Follow me over on Instagram. Just follow not.so.obvious.watches, and I'll see you later. Bye.